We are about to explore the creation of one of the most iconic video games that rolled out of the 90s, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. This isn't just a game. It's a phenomenon that kicked off a revolution, not just in gaming, but in skateboarding culture worldwide. Today we're rolling back to 1999, a time when baggy jeans were the norm, punk rock blasted on every CD player, and skateboarding was about to get a major boost. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater didn't just capture the essence of skate culture, it brought it into living rooms across the globe, influencing millions with its fast-paced gameplay and banging soundtrack. It was a game that you didn't just play, you felt it. Every ollie, grind, and kickflip was a brushstroke and a masterpiece of digital skateboarding. So buckle up, or maybe should I say strap on your helmets as we grind through the history, the gameplay, the insane impact, and the lasting legacy of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. The story of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater starts with the man himself, Tony Hawk, a legendary skateboarder who was shredding half-pipes when most of us were still in diapers. Hawk was not just a pioneer of vertical skateboarding, he was its ambassador, pushing the sport to new heights and into mainstream consciousness. But how did this icon of the skate world collide with the gaming industry? Enter Neversoft, a relatively unknown game development studio which took on the challenge of translating the thrill of skateboarding into a video game. The task wasn't easy. Skateboarding involves fluid, dynamic movements that were tough to replicate with the technology available in the late 90s. Neversoft began the development by diving into the skateboarding culture. They attended skateboarding events, recorded sessions with professional skaters, and literally brought ramps into their office to study the physics and movement of skateboarding close up. This dedication helped them to craft a mechanic that felt authentic and responsive, mirroring the real skateboarding experience. One pivotal moment in development was deciding to use motion capture technology, a novel approach just gaining more traction in that era, particularly for sports games. By capturing the movements of real skaters, including Tony Hawk himself, Neversoft could deliver animations that felt incredibly lifelike and fluid. This commitment to authenticity became a cornerstone of the game's success. Tony Hawk himself has spoken about his active involvement in the game's development, from performing countless motion capture sessions to providing critical feedback on the game's authenticity. His anecdotes reveal a deep commitment to ensuring the game felt right to skaters. Hawk's insights were invaluable, helping to bridge the gap between skateboarding as a physical activity and its digital representation. Developers from Neversoft have recounted the intense periods of creativity and innovation that defined the game's production. One developer described the early days of development as a time of raw experimentation, where the team would often work late into the night, fueled by nothing but pizza and the adrenaline rush of creating something new and exciting. They weren't just making a game, they were channeling their passion for skateboarding into a form that everyone could experience, regardless of their ability to actually ride a skateboard. The gameplay of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater set a new benchmark for action sports games, introducing mechanics that were groundbreaking. The game combined intuitive controls with the physics engine that balanced realism with arcade-style fun, enabling players to perform a wide array of tricks that could be linked together into massive combos. At its core, the game featured a straightforward goal: score as many points as possible by performing tricks, completing objectives, and discovering secret areas within a tight time limit. The levels were designed as skate parks, each filled with ramps, rails, and other skatable surfaces that mimicked real-life skateboarding venues. Tricks were the heartbeat of the gameplay. Players could execute a variety of moves including ollies, kickflips, grinds, and manuals, each mapped to simple button combinations. The real magic came from chaining these tricks together. Stringing moves into combos multiplied the points scored, pushing the players to plan their lines and use the entire park effectively. The combo system wasn't just revolutionary for its time, it influenced countless games thereafter. It rewarded skill and precision, appealing to gamers' desires to improve and beat their own high scores or those of their friends. The game's 2-minute sessions packed in urgency and adrenaline, demanding focus and rewarding quick reflexes with strategic thinking. Additionally, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater introduced the concept of collecting items and completing objectives within each level, from gathering letters that spell skate to smashing boxes or hitting hard-to-reach gaps. These tasks added layers of challenge and replayability. They weren't just there for points, they were cleverly integrated into the map, encouraging exploration and mastery of the environment. This gameplay formula was a significant part of what kept players coming back. The satisfaction of nailing a perfect run and racking up a huge score was addictive. It captured the progressive nature of skateboarding itself, always pushing, always improving. And just like in real skateboarding, the game's balance of risk and reward, of flow and technique, made every moment on the board matter. When this game hit the shelves in August of 1999, it was an immediate success. For a game that could have easily flown under the radar, it quickly skyrocketed, becoming one of the most iconic titles of the late 90s. The game sold exceptionally well, eventually moving millions of copies across various platforms, including PlayStation, Nintendo 64, Dreamcast, and later on, the Game Boy Color. By the end of 1999, it was already a bestseller, and it set the stage for a franchise that would dominate the next decade. Critics were equally blown away. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater was praised for its innovative gameplay, tight controls, and its ability to perfectly capture the feeling of skateboarding. The game earned stellar reviews across the board, with many publications calling it one of the best games of its time. GameSpot gave it a glowing 9.1 out of 10, praising its incredible depth and replay value, while IGN awarded it a 9.5 out of 10, lauding its near-perfect balance of realism and arcade fun. It was clear from the start that this game wasn't just another sports title, it was something special. Players echoed that sentiment. The game struck a chord with both casual gamers and hardcore skaters. For the skateboarding community, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater was the game they had been waiting for, an accurate and respectful portrayal of the sport they loved. For gamers, it was a refreshing change of pace from traditional sports games, offering a unique mix of fast-paced action and creative freedom. Many found themselves playing for hours, obsessively trying to perfect their trick lines and hit every secret gap. In terms of accolades, the game consistently topped Best of lists for 1999 and 2000. It went on to win numerous awards, including Best Sports Game at the 1999 E3 Game Critics Award and multiple Game of the Year nominations. This critical success was matched by its commercial appeal, as the game became a bestseller for the PlayStation and helped Neversoft and Activision carve out a dominant position in the sports game market. Beyond just the first release, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater would go on to sell over 5 million copies, cementing it as one of the best-selling video games of its era. Its sequels would continue this trend, with each new iteration keeping players and critics engaged, pushing the franchise into a legendary status within the gaming industry. But Tony Hawk's Pro Skater was more than just a critical and commercial success. Its legacy extends far beyond the confines of its own game series, influencing an entire genre of sports games and setting a new standard for what a video game could achieve in terms of cultural impact and technical innovation. Firstly, the game's approach to combining sports with a strong cultural element, particularly with style and music, became a blueprint for future sports titles. This integration showed developers how deeply a game could resonate with players when it mirrors a broader subculture, providing an immersive and authentic experience that goes beyond mere gameplay. Titles like SSX and NBA Street owe much to the path Tony Hawk's Pro Skater paved, where the fusion of sport, music, and lifestyle creates a compelling, vibrant game world. Furthermore, the game's impact on the technical side of gaming was profound. Its fluid mechanics and responsive controls challenged other developers to innovate and elevate their own gameplay systems. The precision required to master Tony Hawk's Pro Skaters demanded a level of interaction and engagement that helped set new standards for what a responsive gaming experience should feel like. And, a little known fact, Neversoft took this game mechanic and went on to make Spider-Man titles. The franchise method of integrating real-world professional athletes, starting with Tony Hawk and expanding to include a roster of famous skaters, also set a trend. This practice brought a level of authenticity and endorsement to the games that not only increased their marketability, but also allowed fans to connect more deeply with their real-life heroes. Through these contributions, Tony Hawk Pro Skater did more than just define a gaming genre. It influenced the cultural dialogue around gaming and sports, bridging gaps and building communities around the globe. It remains a cornerstone in the foundation of sports gaming, a testament to its enduring appeal and revolutionary approach. Following the massive success of the original Tony Hawk Pro Skater title, the franchise expanded rapidly, spinning out numerous sequels and variations that aimed to capitalize on and extend the excitement of the original. Each new installment brought enhancements, new features, and a broader scope, aiming to keep the series at the forefront of sports gaming. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, released in 2000, is often considered one of the greatest video games of all time. It built on the original's solid foundation by adding more tricks, larger levels, and the game-changing Create a Park feature, allowing players to design and skate their own custom parks. This sequel not only met fans' high expectations, but exceeded them, pushing the boundaries of what sports games could be. The series continued to evolve with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, which introduced online gaming to the franchise, enabling players around the world to compete against each other in real time. Each sequel seemed to innovate in some way, whether through technology, gameplay mechanics, or multimedia integration, ensuring the franchise's place in the gaming community. However, as more sequels were produced, the challenge of keeping the series fresh became apparent. While titles like Tony Hawk's Underground and Underground 2 were praised for their narrative depth and expanded gameplay options, later entries such as Tony Hawk Ride, which used a physical skateboard controller, were not as well received. These games demonstrated that the difficulty of innovating without straying too far from the formula that fans love. The 2020 remake of the original Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 was a return to form, celebrating the series' roots while updating the graphics and mechanics for a new generation. This remake was a critical and commercial success, proving that the core gameplay of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater still had significant appeal and that there was still a strong appetite for high-quality, nostalgic skateboarding games. So as we wrap up this gnarly ride through the pixelated skate parks of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, it's clear that this wasn't just a game. It was a cultural juggernaut that landed a 900 in the hearts and minds of an entire generation. From its inception in the grind-heavy workshops of Neversoft to the explosive impact on the world of skateboarding and beyond, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater did more than just fill our after-school hours. It defined them. And so, whether you played it on your dusty old console or caught the recent high-def remakes, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater remains a monument to the thrills of skateboarding and the magic of gaming. It's a reminder that sometimes the simplest concepts, like skating around and scoring points, can resonate the deepest, lasting long after the final combo has landed. In the end, Tony Hawk Pro Skater wasn't just about mastering the halfpipe, it was about capturing a vibe. A moment in time that said, hey, let's kick some tricks and maybe, just maybe, kickstart a revolution while we're at it. And that, dear gamers, is a playthrough worth remembering. If you enjoyed exploring the history and making of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, click this video here to see more from the Retro Reload. And, as always, thank you for watching.